Welcome back to part 2 of maintenance and repair on my Star Trek The Next Generation pinball machine. As a word of caution beforehand, and to briefly recap what I said in the first part of this discussion, my suggestion to you if you're considering owning this game is that unless you're really comfortable working with WPC-era machines like this one at an advanced level, and by advanced level I mean board-level repair, I'd strongly recommend having a good local pinball technician you can call when things go south. Trust me, that's inevitable, no matter how careful you are. So if you're taking this game to a desert island, what do you need to take with you in order to give yourself a chance to keep this thing running? First, you have to have the manual and the WPC schematics. And using those, you need to learn how to use the very helpful diagnostic tools in the game software. I also suggest you buy the relevant This Old Pinball videos. If your desert island has Wi-Fi, and what self-respecting desert island wouldn't, you'll definitely need an account at pinside.com, so you can write to the community for help, or maybe write a Dear Lloyd letter. You might also consider a subscription to pinballninja.com. There are resources out there available to you, but you've got to locate, use, and absorb them as applicable to have half a chance to keep this thing running. You also have to have all the requisite WPC maintenance and repair tools, and typical parts like fuses, switches, coils, and whatnot, which you can read about in detail elsewhere. Those are available from a variety of vendors both down your street and on the web. And importantly, you also have to know how to use these things, especially the tools. Many problems I've read about have been contributed to by misuse of things like soldering irons, to sometimes tragically expensive and irreversible results. In an effort to avoid adding to that long and sordid documented history, I'm quite well aware of the boundless limits of my own ignorance and tend to observe them with a jaundiced eye and a slack jaw. Knowing what I do now, and that's mostly from over-the-shoulder observations of people who, unlike me, have more than a fraction of a clue, I honestly would not recommend this game as a first pin for a newbie like I was, because of its many advanced technical challenges. I wonder how many people have been put off the hobby entirely by buying one of these as a first game and giving up in frustration when the ghosts just wouldn't go away. When it's time to pull out the flukes and wellers, I'm fortunate to be able to call someone like my pinball technician, John. Your mileage may vary, but at my skill level today, that's what I'm most comfortable will yield the results that I'm hoping for. I'm also fortunate to have a patient wife who didn't order this thing out to the curb after John started working on the third board. If this game had been properly maintained throughout its life before I received it, I'm sure there would have been infinitely fewer problems for my technician John to address. But route life can be tough, even for a pile of bulbs and bolts like this. I'm mostly clueless about repair because so far I've played it safe and only done fairly basic things. I'm not proud of it, and I really hope to change that someday, but today that's my reality. And when it comes to maintenance and repair of this machine, I prefer to respect the limits of what I'm competent to do, unless I want to learn some very expensive lessons the hard way. So, with the caveat that you consider the source, my 7 points of advice, which are worth exactly what you're paying for them, are as follows. Know local pinball service professionals who you can trust. Gather the appropriate tools, parts, and references, and learn how to use them. Know your technical limits and avoid frustrating mistakes. Learn basic diagnostic skills like testing for continuity. Simply keep your game clean to avoid many problems. Read online and participate when you can. It's a great community. And address issues with the machine as soon as they crop up, so they don't have a chance to mutate. Nobody likes mutants. Before I go, a special thanks to Mr. John Clements, whose careful and professional work on this wonderful and challenging pinball machine has provided years of fun, skill building, and quality father-son time. I can't put a price on that. Next, I'll talk about how I managed to wind up with this particular machine. It's a pretty cool story about buying a first pin, So I hope you'll think about clicking on Part 3 to hear about how Christmas 2006 was pretty special for my son Andrew and I, as we both got started in a hobby that's been really rewarding for us ever since. Thanks for taking the time to watch Part 2 of Maintenance and Repair. This has been Dan O'Connor in Raleigh, North Carolina of the Triangle Pinball Club, speaking only for himself. Now, I suggest you go watch someone who's truly informed, like Todd Tuckey. Talk about something they actually know something about. After this regrettable experience, won't that be refreshing?